society has always praised winners. Winning is and has become the central core of society, and everything that we do revolves around this one dynamic. We just want to add a favorite quote: winners never quit, and quitters never win. Balance, a term that is associated with almost everything present around us. Today's work culture revolves around the concept of balance to a greater extent. Winning is important, and it's important in both the ways, in work and in life, to make you a successful individual. Join us for this very captivating session as our industry experts respond to how one can keep the winning streak in both work and life. HRAI jointly with LMA welcomes you all to this session on connecting the dots, winner, work, and life. To know more about HRAI and LMA, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to welcome Mr. A.K. Mathur, Vice President, Lucknow Management Association, to come and introduce our esteemed panel members for our today's webinar.
Uh,
Welcome, sir.
thank you, Peterson, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome from Lucknow Management Association. I'm A.K. Mathur, and I'm very pleased to introduce our panelists and the moderator in this interesting session. Our first panelist is Dr. Rajan Johri. He's a member of LMA Executive Committee, and he is Managing Director of Leadwin, a service science consultancy. He holds a master's degree in anthropology and organization behavior, a management professional with experience of over 30 years in India and overseas. His research was in flexible competency maturity modeling at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. In early 80s, he was the first chapter president of NHRD, Vadodara. He worked with Alembic Chemicals, NIIT, Renbexy, Boston Scientific BV, the Netherlands, Aramco in UAE, with Toyota in Sultanate of Oman. He led the human resource quality, continuous improvement, and organization development. He served MB Petroleum as Chief Executive Officer for their informatics business. He was Principal Consultant at HCL and Founder Director of HCL's Shiv Nadar University. Our next panelist is Dr. J.C. Christine, Vice President, HR, Convent Consultancy Private Services Private Limited, has total experience of 28 years in the industry. An HR leader having a strong, in-depth functional expertise across all facets of human resource arena, has got a diverse variety of exposure working across education, IT services, IT product development, ITES, HR consulting sectors. He has worked in companies such as NTT Data, Philips, Cambridge Solutions, Nest Technologies, Hinduja Global Solutions, HGS, Ascent Consulting, Netter Technical Training Foundation. He has MTech from Manipal University and PhD in HR from Alliance University, Bangalore. Then our next panelist is Dr. Frederick Correa. He's a Senior Associate Vice President at Dara Shaw and has proven track record of creating and implementing HR strategies that successfully drive business initiatives relating to profitability, talent development, and effective change management. He has extensive campus recruitment experience and a keen interest to bridge the campus to corporate gap. This led him to pursue his PhD in this area, and him being on advisory board of studies for various B schools and universities to co-create both a curriculum and a pedagogy to focus around the employability of graduates passing of business schools today. He is a SME of employability studies and talent management, advanced skill and advisory, and is also the author of the upcoming book, Enhance Your Employability with Ikigai, a simple 7-step program to win at work and life. The moderator of this panel is Mr. Dhawan Bhau. Uh, He is a professional speaker and trainer. He has spoken on subjects related to HR, business development, entrepreneurship, and different ways of approaching thought digital professional platform. I would now hand over to Mr. Dhawan to take forward the pen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mathu sir, for such a lovely introduction, and I welcome all the panel members to this lovely session. So today we are going to talk about winning. Life is all about winning, and winning doesn't mean that you have to be on someone's shoulder or you have to work something which is not ethical and win. But there are ways to win this, win the things and be grow in your life, in your professional career, in everything. And currently, whatever the situation is going on in the country, whole country about this pandemic situation, it is very, very much important to win and to come back from this setback. And it has been a great opportunity to be a part of such a wonderful session. I would like to now go ahead with this because there has been many negativities and positivities in our life in current scenario. So I would like to ask and have opinion from Dr. Jesse that if he would enlighten us with how to degrade the negativity and upgrade the positivity in our life in a current scenario. Over to you, Dr. Jesse.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. It's a very philosophical question, so I would like to give a philosophical reply as well. I think it's important for us to be happy with what we already have. This is point number one. We should not compare with others. Instead, I would say compare only with you as a person, right? Let's not worry too much about the current situation, which is going around us or happening around us. Am I improving in my skill sets? Am I improving in my competencies? If I look back as an individual, 2 years back, 1 year back, 6 months back, am I on the right track? If that is happening, I think that's the way to progress. Maybe some of you might have lost your jobs. Probably your salary has been reduced. Keep telling yourself you have gone through similar situations in the past. You have done it, you can do it, and you will do it. Okay? Be grounded. Let's look around. There are many people who are less privileged than us. At least most of us have a house to live, a vehicle to travel, food to eat. Many others around us don't have these things. Remember, this situation too shall pass. Finally, the fact that we are alive today itself is a great achievement, especially in the current situation. Okay, few other simple tips. My humble request is don't watch TV news, especially in the current situation. Unfortunately, as a strategy, media focuses only on negative news, calling it as breaking news. In reality, it may be heartbreaking for many of us, right? Because I have not seen any newspaper or any magazine or even the TV or any other channel dedicating a separate section for happy news, right? In all our cities, all our villages, all our towns, there are so many people living happily even today. Unfortunately, those things don't get captured by any media. So my humble request is stay away from watching TV news, because right now it's only what is the count, what is the how the status of the farmers band. There are many things happening. Probably you and I don't have control on those things. So let us stay in our own zone, which will ensure that we are able to stay positive. Focus on things which will motivate us. Don't go through every single WhatsApp video on how to survive coronavirus. I think we have survived till now. Don't worry. God will take care of us from now on. Yeah. So with this, I would like to hand over back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jesse. And I completely agree with all the things and all the points that you have said, because that is the reality which we have to live currently, and we are obviously going to come out of the situation. And as you said, employment has hampered, employees have hampered, even the entrepreneurs have hampered. But yes, we cannot forget the students who are currently studying, who are having the colleges, who are going to the schools, who are studying out of the country. Even they are facing the issues because many of them have been called back by their parents, because parents are afraid of this pandemic situation. Similarly, because they have been watching the news and they have been thinking about the situation might get worse. So now many of the schools, colleges, I would say almost all the school, colleges, universities have started online education. So for this, I would like to call in Dr. Rajan so that he can enlighten us about the recent shift for the remote learning. So it would be great if you can share and enlighten us for that, Dr. Rajan. Over to you, Dr. Rajan.
Hello, everyone. Well, we are actually discussing something which is very serious, and also it has affected almost everybody across the world. And I believe that the most important thing that happened because of COVID, especially in education, is that everybody has been kind of brought on an equal platform. So there is nobody now like who's a backbencher. Everybody's on the screen. There are no teachers playing the pet because everybody can see what's going on. So that's been the greatest equalizer. However, one of the things that has actually happened in the area of remote learning is that there was something that we used to do before also, something called homework. Now it's just the other way around. It's called work from home. And therefore, one important message that I'd like to share with everyone is that remote learning is not the panacea for substituting teachers or not making enough notes or not researching. So you have to now go through a virtual library if you're a senior student. If you're a school going student, you have to ensure that you keep doing all what has been allocated to you in the right fashion. The most important thing, the message must go, the impact of remote learning is to the parents. If some of you are parents and some of you have parents who are already kind of reporting that there has been a major change in the behavior of students. For example, there have been excessive arguments, refusals, opposition, defiance, sometimes withdrawal. And these are not unusual things. These happen normally too. But then now it seems that they have got a bit aggravated. And so there are some who have fallen behind because they've not been able to adjust to what's the use of technology in remote learning. And therefore, some things that parents need to watch out is help them to adjust with what's the use of technology and the teacher not in the class, not face to face as much as it was in the school. Similarly, for senior students, it's not that you can raise a hand and ask a question immediately. Many times, wherever we have been involved in looking at how do we train teachers in using technology, one of the things we noticed is that they are also adjusting to the whole new methodology. And therefore, they normally prefer that let me finish what I'm speaking, and then you can raise a question. Or the technology itself says, put your question in the chat box. Whereas in the normal situation, you would actually raise your hand and say, I didn't understand it. So that's something which is the disadvantage of remote learning. But then I'm sure that once we get used to how it's being done, it can. Parents, however, must stop doing some things that I have seen people doing. I have known of parents who actually dress up their children in a school uniform and get them to sit in a room which is the school for that matter. Now, that's something like pushing it too far. And therefore, adjustment, understanding, finding flexibility in what kind of courses you could do. And the best thing is you can do it at your own pace. You can do it with the tutors you wish. You can even switch and go to some other site and view the same subject differently. Or if you're attending a regular online class from your university or a school, you've got to go through the motions as it happens in the process too. But don't feel that this is a substitute for your normal methodology of learning. You still need to practice, you still need to go back, make your notes, understand what's going on, question, send an email, and keep enjoying the new blend of teacher and taught relationship and teacher and technology relationship and student and technology relationship. That's the most important thing with respect to remote learning. Thanks, Naval.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. It was really very interesting and to know that what we are believing and what we need to understand, not only as parents, but as a person, as an individual. Because I have also seen nowadays there are many parents who are trying to make their children forced to sit in the school, and they also make them ready. They make them dress like in a school dress as if they're sending them to the school. But right now we have to focus and we have to blend them into the current situation, and we have to make them blend with the ongoing situation. They have to adapt the new technology. So it's going to take time. But I completely agree with what you have shown to us, guided to us, and we should implement that. But and now we look to the current situation. One thing good that has happened to us, apart from everything, that we have uh, guided ourselves in the current situation, and we have motivated ourselves. And nowadays, I have seen many people who have started reading the books, and there are a number of new books that are coming into the market, and that people would like to read because the subjects are good and the topic inside and the content inside is very good. So for that, now I would like to invite Mr. Frederick, who can uh, enlighten us about his upcoming book, which is Enhance Your Employability with Ikigai. So I would now hand it over to Mr. Frederick. Mr. Frederick, stage is all yours now. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. If you look at today's topic, a winner, work in life, well, a winner says if it has to be, it has to be me. A loser says I can't help it. If we go back in time, if you've seen if anyone has achieved anything in life, they have done it in spite of difficulties and not in absence of. So that is the kind of attitude one must have if he has to win. And now going towards this book I've written, well, there was a two-prong approach which I took. One was an empirical approach where I went out to 700-800 HR, human resource professionals out there to try and understand what is those components, or what do you think is the reason, or what do you look at in an individual, or what gives you employer satisfaction. That was one approach, and the other approach was a philosophical and a research backed approach. Both these approaches converge so beautifully at a point which is so well explained by this term known as Ikigai, which I've borrowed from this island in Japan. It's a Japanese word, the Okinawa island, which has the most centurions in the world. So what is Ikigai? What is what is it that these two studies have emerged? What is the point where these two studies have emerged? So folks, Ikigai, if I were to explain it to you in a very simple way, would be an overlap of 4 Venn diagrams or 4 circles. 1, what are you passionate about? Now, for example, I may be passionate about cricket. So that's the first circle. The next circle is, what is your skill set? Well, I may be passionate about cricket, but I can't play cricket at all. Well, of course, I may be able to play cricket, but considering that we are in a country where a population of 1.3 billion, getting into the Indian cricket team is going to be tough. At best, maybe I'll get into Ranji, maybe I can play district level. So understanding what are your skill sets. So one may be a very good communicator. One may be a very good strategist. One may be a very good in sports management. Someone may be a very good statistician, right? So you need to understand what is the skill set that you have. The next circle is, what does the world need? So you got to see, based on your philosophy or your passion and your skill set, what are the options or the kind of job opportunities for you which the world requires. So if we've taken this example of cricket, and if I was a good statistician, I could get into statistics. I could get into, if I was a good communicator, I could become a great communicator. If I was a good strategist, I could become a good team manager. I could become a team selector. If I was good in understanding the game, and if I were to get into marketing, and if I was, say, a broadcast producer, now you must be thinking that, it's a live game of cricket. What is there to produce? You just see what's on the field and you play it back for all of us at home. But folks, understand one thing. The revenue system is very simple. When there's a gap, there's an ad which is put out. So when Mahendra Singh Dhoni gives a sign to the pavilion, if you are passionate and understand the game, you know that it's going to take 30 seconds for that to occur. Let me push in this break, right? So at the end, the final or the ultimate circle is, what do you get paid for? So it is the overlap of these 4 circles which happen to be the sweet spot known as Ikigai, which is Japanese for your purpose in life, or your reason to wake up. If you identify this purpose, you would be able to move in the right direction towards success. Because at the end, if you don't know where you're heading, there's no way you're going to find the right way, right? So that is what this concept is. So in short, the research or the empirical evidence puts a lot of emphasis on career clarity, and having career clarity has a direct and very strong correlation with employer satisfaction. And if you find your Ikigai, you're not only going to be able to be successful at work, you're not only going to be having a fast pace or a fast track career, but you're going to be having a wholesome one. Thanks, Dhawan.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. Well, it was so astonishing, and all the best for your upcoming book, and we are very much eager to read the book. And as you have explained all the topics currently in very short span, in a brief to us. So now talking back about the employment, which is one of the biggest question in the current scenario, because as we said earlier, as we discussed earlier, that many of the associates, employees have lost their jobs. Many of the entrepreneurs are facing the issues in the business due to this current scenario. So there are things and there are the ways how we can cultivate the positive things with the winning attitude. But I would like Mr. Jesse to explain us more and enlighten us with the same thing, that how an individual can cultivate positive and winning attitude to engage with work, passion, and life, all these 3 things. So over to you, Dr. Jesse.
Okay, am I audible? Sure, thank you. I would like to extend further on what Frederick said. I would like to introduce a concept called Kolaveri. This is not from the song of actor Dhanush. Okay. Veri in Tamil language means desire. Kolaveri means fire and passion. You need to identify your Kolaveri. Kolaveri means something which is very, very close to your heart. Now the challenge is, How do I identify my Qualabri? Because when you finish a course, you are thinking I can get into this activity or that activity, or depending on my first job, we are confused about how do I identify my fire and passion. I will share my own example so that it becomes easy for you to understand. Way back in 91-92, I was the lecturer cum placement officer in Karunya Institute of Technology, Coimbatore. Now it is Karunya Deemed University. After the class hours, I used to spend time with third year and fourth year engineering students, sharing my experiences in searching for a job, how to prepare for interviews, what to study, how to study, etc. As a placement officer, in addition to the regular campus recruitment activities, I was more involved in arranging weekend jobs for poor and deserving students in Coimbatore city. I managed to place a few students in small companies where they were paid rupees 50 per day for those during those days. Rupees 50 into 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, equal to rupees 100 per weekend, into 4, rupees 400 in a month, which was sufficient to take care of the college mess bill those days. While I was doing all this, I was in my comfort zone. I had a tremendous level of satisfaction while doing this. It was easy and natural for me. I was enjoying what I was doing. Friends, these are some of the symptoms to identify if you are operating in your Qualabri zone. You can start loving your job, and that can also become your Qualabri, which is the fire and passion. Is there any other way to identify? Yes, you can convert your hobby as your job and make it as your Qualabri. So the best would be to try and convert your hobby. Then the interesting part is you don't need to work for the rest of your life. Best example is A.R. Rahman. Have you ever heard of A.R. Rahman making a 1 hour motivational speech? No. Why? Because his Qualabri is composing music. Morning till night, he is thinking of music. That is why he has won so many Oscar awards. Friends, it's a mindset. I was addicted to the function of recruitment for a very long time. You know how it helped me? My Qualabri took me to the position of head of recruitment for the entire Asia Pacific region for Philips Electronics. I was based in Hong Kong for 3 years, managing the recruitment function of 14 countries across the region. The first Indian to do so in the history of Philips, the company which is more than 100 years old. Later, I expanded this Qualabri to the overall HR function. I was actively involved in retaining employees at the grassroots level, while I was the Vice President HR for India operations in Hinduja Global Solutions from 2008 till 2012. That prompted me to study further. And I completed my PhD in HR in 2017 with my final thesis on employee retention itself. If you are still not able to identify your Qualabri, here is the good news. Once you join a corporate, you can develop your Qualabri, fire and passion in the following areas: sales, marketing, advertising, finance, HR, operations, etc., etc. You need to like your job, love your job, and get addicted to your job. Then you are operating in your Qualabri zone, which is the fire and passion. Please identify your Qualabri as early as possible in your life. Then you don't need to work for the rest of your life. You get paid for your Qualabri, which is your fire and passion. Okay? So it is very important to be passionate about what you do. One more interesting thing, it is very important to expand your scope all the time. Study further. I was talking about my PhD program. I completed my PhD in 2017 at the age of 49 years. I am sure Frederick is about to probably beat me in terms of age, or he may still complete in less than 50 years. So it is very important to keep a list of things which will keep you going, right? So that you don't worry too much about what is happening around you. You have a clear plan. Every 3 years, 4 years, I am going to take up a new initiative from the scratch and become an expert in that field. So friends, this will keep you positively engaged and motivated in life. It's not only about the job content, on your personal life. In all aspects, if you are 100% focused on something, trust me, life is very enjoyable. Over to Mr. Dhawan.
Thank you, Dr. Jesse. It was very nice listening to the thing that Kolavari has a different meaning apart from the song, which we all were thinking that it's just a song. So thank you so much for explaining us the second and the valuable meaning of Kolavari. And it was very much good to hear about your educations and your experience which you've shared with us. So currently, due to this online studies, as previously we talked with Dr. Rajan, this online studies is creating some kind of a stress on the students because it is going online. They are being packed in the house. They are not allowed to move anywhere. No doubt the students who are in the college or universities, they might go out with their friends, but the small kids who are from say first grade to eighth grade, they are stopped in the house. So apart from that, I would like to ask Dr. Rajan that how students can win over the increasing mental stress which is going on currently due to this online education. So I'll give it over to Dr. Rajan, and it's all yours, Dr. Rajan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. It's a difficult one because everybody has a different threshold for stress. And therefore, some of people would be experiencing stress quite a bit and quite a lot, and some of them may be able to manage it pretty well. However, let me first bring to topmost of my mind that what are the classifications of this kind of mental stress that's been happening. For example, there have been several psychological, cognitive, musculoskeletal impairments that have been reported recently. Um, if I choose some of the ones that are most common, overwhelming anxiety, exhaustion, feelings of detachment, a kind of ineffectiveness, lack of accomplishment. And if you look at students, a new kind of problem has been reported now. It's called scoliosis. It's like you have had earlier scoliosis because of children carrying big heavy bags at the back and the spine got a curvature. Now even seniors are getting that problem, a little backache, because the posture the which they were sitting throughout the day. So now there is a new variant of that. It's called an eye hunch. An eye hunch is like the eye is your internet, and the hunch that comes up because you're constantly peering on the screen. Now, so there are many remedies and there are many prescriptions, and there's a whole self-help industry that is going on to say do this and don't do that. And you can even have some Ayurvedic stuff, and it'll I don't think that one of those prescriptions can work for everybody. There's no one size that fits all. But let me say that the important point to note is that we thought that people who are not using so much of these gadgets or who are not on the internet, they are more stressed because they're learning something new. They're not able to cope with it. But it's the other way around. It's appearing that if you are having much more of gadget use, you call yourself net savvy, but it's like over and excessive use. You're constantly on the WhatsApp, you're constantly messaging. Now that is fine because you know how are you going to cope with it. But what happens in mental stress is when you start to assume that the person to whom you are sending these messages, or the one you're interacting, is as much a netizen as you are. You're as much computer savvy. The other person is as much computer savvy. The kind of degree of ease that you have with use of gadgets is exactly the same with the other person. And that's where there's more of mental stress. Earlier, you sent an email, you kind of wait for a while, and maybe as we had a rule earlier saying within 8 hours or so, you must respond to an email, so you would get an answer. WhatsApp kind of made it much more faster. And now that expectation has kind of accelerated. So if I send a WhatsApp, I expect that the person will immediately respond back because you're supposed to be on a WhatsApp. And if you don't double tick me, I get upset, I'm embarrassed. I sometimes find people actually picking up the phone and saying, hey, you're not watched my WhatsApp. Now, WhatsApp means that you should be actually available. That doesn't mean that you should not be doing things that are supposed to be done without the gadgets. Now, as I said, there is no one syrup, capsule, or therapy that actually can cure this. But there are only can be some precautions. I have, for students and for seniors and for people who constantly do a lot of work on the net, I've been using in the education system setting something called edutainment. It's kind of a mix of education and entertainment. And it's a new methodology, a new kind of work that we are trying to do. Anyone in this program who's interested can connect offline. This is not the forum for it. But yes, try to see if you can blend in many things. For example, you can take a break. I know of a friend who in his own home, it's a biggish home, he has created places in which he says, I'm actually going to Connaught Place if it was in Delhi. I'm actually going to visit somebody else, and goes one room to the other and kind of believes that, yes, he's traveling, goes into the garage, goes and meets somebody, says hi to some neighbor. So many things are possible to take that required break that you need when you're constantly working on the net. So mental stress is happening because of our expectations, is because of our constantly doing something and not filling in the gaps with something which are normal, natural, and avoiding those. So I would suggest try and practice some of these things. It may work for you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. That was really very knowledgeable. And as the way I understood and as the way I was hearing it, we as a human have to make sure that we should not allow technology to take over the human races, because if we come under the power of technology and if technology starts ruling us in current time where we are working maximum with the technology, either it's computers, it's mobiles, TV, or iPads, it's going to rule us. And due to which I believe, as you explained, the stress level is going to increase more. So now I'm coming back to Mr. Frederick, as you explained very wonderfully about the meaning of Ikigai and about the book that is coming up. So I would like to explain you more about how balance we should keep in work and life to enhance the positive attitude, so that we can procure the innovation not only in our work but in our life too.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, Dr. Jesse has so wonderfully Indianized this whole concept of Ikigai, and it's absolutely, you've got the right pulse of what one needs to do when it comes to finding your polarity. So, going back, and I'll pick up a question which was there and connected to this answer. The concept of Ikigai is borrowed from Japan, not the Venn diagram. The Venn diagram was to make you understand what sport is your Ikigai, and someone wanted a quick refresher on it. So one, what you're passionate about. Two, what you're good at, understanding the skill sets you possess. Three is what does the world need, and the final circle happens to be what the world is ready to pay for. The sweet spot in between this is your Ikigai, and from now I'm going to also refer it to as your Kolaveri zone, right? Now, if you're in this zone, like Dr. Jesse said, and he gave a very apt example of Rahman, if you like what you do, if you do what you like and you love what you're doing, and you're spending, let us say 12 out of the 16 hours you're awake in that zone, work and life integrate so beautifully that there's no requirement for work-life balance. You see, if we look at work-life balance and how this concept came into play 3 generations ago, if you look at Maslow's levels of hierarchy, you know what people require first is your basic needs. That's physiological and safety needs. In other words, in the words of Amitabh Bachchan, roti, kapra or makan, right? So that is what people would go to work for. They would go to work to get roti, kapra, makan. And the rest of the time they had was what they would quote unquote call life, right? And they would work to enjoy that part which was life. But if you are passionate about what you are doing, if you identify and you find that synergy of what you like to do, what the world needs, and most importantly, if you're enjoying what you do, then where's the requirement for balance? Because your work and life is integrated so beautifully, not only will you be less stressed, not only will you have to compartmentalize your life a lot lesser, because when you're working, you're 100% working, and when you're not, you're content with whatever you're doing. And it is only when the mind is at ease are you able to innovate. There are 2 times when people innovate. One is when they're very lazy. You know, the laziest people are the most innovative, because they will find a way how to minimize effort, right? And I say it as a very good thing. So there has to be definitely someone who's very lazy in the team, or in a quality circle which is working on invention, because they have the kind of thought process, how can I avoid work? So, you know, it's actually a very good thought process. So boiling down to innovation, if your mind is at ease, if you like what you do, you're going to excel at what you do. And if you excel at what you do, there's going to be this constant need to innovate and rebuild yourself and work on every aspect, such that you grow closer and closer to your Ikigai. Is it possible that you're going to find your Kolaveri zone or your Ikigai in your first job? Probably not. Do you think that everyone has found this spot? No, it's a journey. It's a journey moving towards this zone. And that is what your career, it's not reaching your Kolaveri zone, but your journey moving towards that. So if I were to give an example, and I'll draw a parallel for students who are passing out of their B school, your MBA college or your engineering college is like a railway platform, right? Your vision, your goal, or what you want to achieve in life, if you identify your Kolaveri or you identify your Ikigai, that is the location you want to go to. Your job is the train you are taking from your railway station to that job. Now, for example, if you're at the railway station and you do not know where to go, what are you going to do? Either you're going to stay on the railway station, or you're going to see which train has the maximum people and run after that. And that's what we all do. And we start running in this corporate race only to climb up this corporate ladder and realize after a point in time that this ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall, right? So the idea is to identify what I want to do in life and how am I going to go there. Is it going to be easy to find my Ikigai or my Kolaveri? Not really. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to make a continuous effort. Is it very easy to understand, okay, these are the skill sets I have, so definitely there's going to be a job which the world needs? Probably not. You'll have 7 or 8 of them. You will see that there are 3 or 4 skills which you need to develop. So you need to understand and do a skilling inventory and a skilling audit every 6 months in your career. You got to keep building yourself. You got to keep developing yourself and slowly move towards the place where you develop the competencies to provide the kind of experience or the kind of job required which the world needs. And when you find this perfect balance, and the sooner you find it, the more in control of your life you're going to be, and you will live on your life and not in your life. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. That was really awesome, and it was the one of the best way where you have merged and context with the word Kolaveri and the meaning of the Kolaveri that Dr. Jesse has explained us. And yes, the thing which you told, the famous dialogue of Amitabh Bachchan, Roti, Kapda or Makan. I would like to add something with that context, that we, as being an individual, we always should wear two kind of hats in our life, which I have also learned somewhere. First, one is your family hat, and second is your professional hat. So when you are at your home, when with your family, just put a family hat on your head and live with the family at the fullest. And when you are at your office, just put the professional hat and do your work at the fullest. So as Dr. Jesse explained about the employments and everything, and about the Kolibri and all. So Dr. Jesse, I was wondering, many of the individuals or the associates think that currently this is a time of a setback. But I think this is not the time of a setback, but it is a time of comeback of what has happened in the past months. So we need to come back and come back with a great power, and we should show that no, whatever the situation is, we can do it, we will do it, and we have to do it. So I'll hand over to Dr. Jesse to explain more about how to convert setback to a comeback.
Okay, this is a very interesting topic. Personally, I would like to say it is very important to keep adapting yourself, accept the new realities in life on a daily basis, right? We cannot plan saying that next 6 months, next 1 year, I am going to do it. If things are in our control, Unfortunately, things may not be in our control all the time. Create your own personal brand by focusing on your strengths. Let the industry know you for your unique offerings. So I'm going to give you a few quick examples of what happened in my life in the last 8-9 months. That may be interesting for you to relate to in a better way. During the last 9 months, like most of us, I have been working from home in my job. Suddenly, out of the blue, in the month of March, when this lockdown started, I got an invitation from one of the universities in Coimbatore to address their engineering and MBA students through a webinar on career guidance. I accepted it because it was a Saturday session where I was not working. I accepted. Then, interestingly, one after the other, I started receiving more invitations. It was not restricted to one particular city or state. It started coming from different parts of the country. And I ended up with, when I look back, I was just counting a few days back, I have done so far about 22 sessions for colleges, universities across the country. I have conducted about 8 coaching sessions to MBA students of a particular college in Trivandrum. They, in fact, even offered me 1 hour slot in their regular timetable. Can you imagine? I was taking them sessions on all different sub-functions of HR, starting from recruitment all the way to employee retention. 15 students in the final semester MBA. I had a regular session. I did a session to students of a particular university, even in Oman. All happened thanks to the online mode. I have done a few sessions to industry forums and a few corporates. As I speak now, interestingly, I have recently joined a new organization where I'm only 2 weeks old. All these things, the starting point happened only in the last 8 or 9 months back. I have been recently appointed as an HR advisor to 2 companies. So just to summarize, this is, if you ask me personally, is this what I planned a year back? All these things are going to happen in my life? Answer is no. Like everybody else, I went through the same situation. The working hours got changed. It created a lot of issues at home initially. You have to manage with your work responsibilities, home responsibilities. Somehow one invitation happened. I just picked it up. Rest is history. So the point is, I would like to summarize by saying, whether it is a difficult situation or a planned situation, let us grab every single opportunity which comes by our way, because there could be something greater which is coming if we follow that track. Though it was unplanned, it is very important for us to create newer opportunities so that we still stay relevant in the industry. People should remember you, right? Because you are offering something unique. I'm sure there are so many better speakers than me. I mean, for someone to be invited today, just to, that's the reality. But the fact is, all this started happening thanks to the lockdown. Earlier, I used to be a part of these sessions, maybe once in 3 months, once in 6 months. You physically go and be part of a session, right? Now it's very easy now, 1 hour session. So this is just my example. I'm sure all of us can relate to our own respective scenarios and try to become more relevant for future. So thanks over to Mr. Dhawan.
Thank you, Dr. Jesse. That was something which was very unique and good to learn about. And congratulations for what you have been appointed recently. And we hope you get more opportunity and you reach the heights because sky is the limit for each and every individual. And now looking towards the situation and everything and looking to the education process which is going on. Apart from education, there has been many things because currently now there are students who are not only looking at the short-term goals, but they have started planning their long-term goals. They have started planning to reach some of the ultimate objective so that they want to ensure themselves to be at a such stage of their life where they are reached, where they have reached and they can achieve something. So I would like to ask Dr. Ranjan that how winners set long-term and short-term milestones to reach an objective, and how they can ensure that milestones are aligned to the ultimate objective.
Good question. Um, I would like to answer it by also taking a bit of information and the concepts that have been shared earlier. And I also noticed some of our participants have been writing some remarks and some questions. So I do agree. Anuj wrote that it could also have, Ikigai could also have a cultural influence. And I do agree. Yes, it can have a cultural influence because the way we look at many things are entirely different than the way sometimes a different kind of world looks after. Now, one of the important things that happens is that when you are looking at an ikigai kind of a concept and you want to try apply it into your life and see, is it going to help me? You need to look at what are the kind of things that come in the way of using ikigai or a model like that. One of the things that comes in our way is that many times our education and the way we have experienced life, they kind of go on a different track. For example, let me do an exercise with you. Pick up a pencil and mark your answer as I ask you. Say, for example, you have heard, and I give you that statement A, which says, time and tide waits for no one. And that's a statement A. And the statement B says, patience pays. Now, when we are looking at life and we are moving forward in life, sometimes my context tells me differently. And some of you may answer by saying, in some situation, I think statement A is useful. In some situation, statement B is useful. But technically, what is this actually asking you? What is this statement and the difference between the two statements asking you to do? It's about your understanding of the concept of time. And when you talk about short term goals and long term goals, it's the time continuum that you're talking about. If you believe that time will stretch forever, it will keep going on forever. For example, in the our part of the world, in the eastern part of the world, we believe that time goes forward. And therefore, anyone asks us something by saying, when are the exams? Or when is the presentation in the office due? And you say, it's due in March. Then people say, oh, this is just December. So they will wake up when February will happen and by the beginning of March. And then you ask everybody, are you ready? Have you done it? And many times students start scrambling up things, notes and books and documents and people when they're coming very close to that line. Whereas in the other part of the world, you use a term called deadline because you walk back from a date, you come closer. So if some of you who have worked in a different part of the world and you are an Indian, you would actually find somebody asking you by saying, when is the exam or when is the launch? And you say March. And the person asks you by saying, so what are you going to do tomorrow about it? And you say, tomorrow? I never thought that you were going to ask me about tomorrow. I'll tell you about that when the time comes. The time is now. You are going to tell me because you walk back from a certain date. So short term and long term goals are basically on the same continuum. And many times we forget that. We get upset, we get frustrated, we feel unhappy. But technically, if you look at it, it's the track on which you are going, the continuum you are going. You must be able to align both by looking at what's the context of what you're going to do. From context, you get to another thing, which is sometimes I use I call that my 6C model. And we go to the second part, the first one being context. The second one is about competency. Are you getting ready for that competency? Do you have that? And many times in some programs, people ask this question and say, I've done everything that I could do, but I'm not that lucky. Now, this is a very tricky question to answer. And what does luck actually mean? So technically, it may mean anything else. Spiritually, it may mean anything else. Philosophically, it may mean anything else. To me, it means preparation plus opportunity. And I just saw somebody wrote a question and said, you need an opportunity. True. But how does it turn into luck? When preparation plus opportunity comes together, you perhaps turn lucky. And you have an opportunity, you're not prepared. You're not able to take it for whatever reason, voluntary, conscious, unconscious, you drop it. And that's what happens when you have a long-term and a short-term goal. Students, I must say, don't wait, as I was saying before, keep doing your work, keep moving forward as you're delivering your studies. For researchers and professionals and for people who are working, I keep saying this, when you have a program or a presentation or a launch or some important thing to finish, walk back from the end result. Come today and you see, am I able to do this? So small steps that you take to reach that goal will be your short-term steps. And the bigger vision that you have to achieve that bigger goal is your long-term goal. If you can align both together, I think life will become much more happier. You will feel more fulfilled. You'll not be so much frustrated. And you may really get your Kulaveri and your Ikigai. You may discover both of them together. That's the best way to move forward. I think like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajan. That was really very knowledgeable and wonderful. And things that we got to understand in detail about Ikigai and Kolabari from two different panel members with different views, and everything was completely very knowledgeable. So now let's move ahead. And I would like to ask Mr. Frederick a question that how a individual or a person should set and aim the winning goal to drive towards success. It would be great if you can brief us in a very quick way so that it
Sure,
could be helpful for everyone.
sure. But before that, I'm going to have to laud what Rajan just said. When it comes to luck, I'll just share a couplet. So these are four lines which are very close to my heart. Dry books he read, new things to learn. He forged ahead success to earn. He plodded with hard work and pluck. And when he succeeded, men called it luck. So you see, you're absolutely right. It's just a matter of perspective. For one, it is when someone achieves or actualizes his true vision, others call it luck. And as far as time is concerned, time does not pass. Time is constant. We come and we go. So, now, while it's a very difficult question to answer succinctly, but I'm going to take an attempt, Dhawan, there's a very common question, and you'd see this in interviews where people ask, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And I think that's the approach people take is very wrong. They see where they are, they look at what they can be in 5 years, and they blurt out some answer. If you want to have the right answer to this question, you have to ask yourself, what do I plan to do when I retire? So where do I see myself? Where's the end? So I'll take my example. I see myself doing research in employability studies and working very closely with premier institutions in the world. Now, what do I need for that? I go back. I say, okay, if I'm going to be able to do that, what I need is 15 to 20 years of top class experience as a CHRO, some industry experience. And what else do I need? I need a PhD degree. Why? Because if I'm going to get into academics, I need to have that. And okay, when do I do that? So if we look at this plan, if you start off at 60 and that's where I want to retire out, or if I go back, I see if that's where I want to be at 60, at 45, I should have got into this field getting out of corporate. Now, the next question is, if I get out at the age of 45 from corporate and I desire to get into this field, like Dr. Jesse just said, if I'm going to take up my PhD, then it's going to be a very difficult journey. Why? Because at the age of 45 or say 43, 44, you're probably at the senior most tier in your organization. The kind of responsibilities on you are pretty much the most that could ever be, because you're at your prime. And at your prime, if you're going to have to allocate time for your studies because you want to use that as a launch pad to move into the next phase in your career, it's going to be very stressful. So what do? You try and understand, okay, this is what I want to do long term. So why don't I start my PhD today? And I started my PhD 5 years back when I was in my late 20s. And today I'm done with it. I'm 33. I have a few research articles published. By the time I'm 45 and I want to get into the administration, and my idea is between 40 to 55, I'm going to be in academic administration. So driving a B school, driving an academic institution of excellence, that's what I aspire to do. And you got to work backwards. Once you have that career clarity, once you understand the skill sets you need, you can start planning today, because you got to understand, this is what I need. These are the resources I have. How do I use them in the most optimum way? 5 years back, the kind of responsibilities I had was probably 50% of the kind of responsibilities I have today. I wasn't married. I'm married today. I wouldn't have had children then. I don't have children today either. But I'm just giving an example. Someone else perhaps would at this age, right? In terms of responsibilities, I would probably be at a junior or mid-level professional in my corporate career. Today, I'm leading the HR function. So if I were to go back and start planning that today I want to do these things, it's going to become very tough. And then you know what people say, that you know what, I didn't have the time. I tried, it was impossible. You see, Einstein said it's insanity to do the same thing again and expect a different outcome, right? So the most powerful tool, while of course you set your goal, you make milestones, and you would have heard this, and this is a very basic funda which a lot of people have spoken. You set your goal, make milestones, and you review it. But the most important tool which people forget to use is the power of reflection. Every week, every fortnight, every month, am I moving closer to my goal? If I am, great. If I am not, what changes am I making today to move towards my goal? So you see, it's a continuous process. And I hope I've been able to answer this in the most succinct manner, because this is the most difficult question to ask. And if you want a detailed answer, you're going to have to go and grab my book.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. That was really awesome. And to the context of the what you have said about where do I see and after 5 years. Well, basically, when I listen to this question, I always think and I always ask myself, have I planned my retirement? If my answer is yes, then yes, I have to work towards to achieve that retirement goals. And if I have not, then first I should work upon it, and then I should think where I would be after 5 years. So now, before going further, as you have got a couple of questions from our participants, I would like to hand over to Peterson so that he can also have a word with everyone. Peterson, stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhawan. Before we move into the Q&A session, we would be running a poll and having our participants' feedback on our today's session. So would request all our participants to kindly participate in this poll by sharing your feedback. It would be helpful for us to improve on our sessions. So while you all are doing so, while you all are sharing your feedback, would request all to also share your questions pertaining to our today's session in the chat box so that we can have them addressed by our panel members.
Shall we move ahead, Peterson?
Yes, yes, Mr. Dhawan. I've shared a couple of questions with you.
Right. So, looking to the questions that we have got, there are a couple of questions which we have got, and previously also there were the questions which we have got. So, one of the most question that I feel that, okay, this is something which everyone should know. So, I would like to ask Mr. Frederick that what are the three important factors that give you fulfillment for the work and why? I know this should be asked to Dr. Jesse, but I want to see the opinion of Mr. Frederick over this.
All right. So first and foremost, you must have, if you're going to take up a job, first and foremost, you must understand what is the vision of the organization, what is your vision, and how both of them overlap. All right. You have to understand what is the skill set that you bring, what is required, and how do you bridge the gap. And finally, and the most important thing, what you must also understand is how much time you are going to have to give to your work, and how much time do you have for yourself to develop yourself in this process while you're contributing to your workspace.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Frederick. Now, Dr. Jesse, I would like to ask you one quick question that how a how a person or an individual can strike a balance between work from home and work from organization, and especially how a female should balance this because she's the one who handles not only the office, not only the house, but apart from that, the parents, the kids, and everyone. So, how they should balance it while working from home or while working from the office, how they can regenerate themselves for this.
I think, to my knowledge, a lot depends on the organization, the culture, and the immediate manager. Because working in office, we are able to see the people around. We can talk to them if there is any concern, any issue regarding motivation or subject knowledge or something. There is a gap. You can actually talk to the person and ensure that the issue is addressed immediately. Whereas the main issue is when you work from home, it is the responsibility of the lead or the manager to proactively to reach out to every team member. If there is a structured approach in the organization, let's say one-on-one meeting happens once in a fortnight or maybe once in a month. If that was the plan earlier, in work from home option, I would say it is better to do it even once in a week because it's very important to understand the pulse of every individual, right? There are people who have got family issues. In some homes, the husbands have lost their jobs. Ladies are working. Now, how will this lady cope with the situation at home? Because husband is currently, he has lost the job, not working. There are issues internally because the wife is not able to cook on time, eat with the person on time, right? These things were not existing before. Earlier, they packed in the morning, both of them left to do different directions. They came back in the evening. I think every small issue, it could be related to children, right? Now, children are also sitting in two different rooms, attending to the system and attending to online classes. How will this lady manage her responsibility of working at the same time managing the family responsibility? I think it's very important for all the leads managers, anyone who's a people manager listening to the session right now. One humble advice is we need to be more empathetic at this point of time. The standard rules which we were applying earlier while working in the office may not be applicable now. You cannot tell 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30. You have to take break only like this. Those are all traditional ways of doing things. So more we are able to understand, put ourselves in the shoes of those people, trust me, the productivity will go up. They'll be very happy to work for you. They will have peace of mind. They're not under tension because there are a lot of family issues which were not there before. I think more we are able to provide these opportunities as managers, then to that extent, the lady employee can actually succeed very well in the current situation. I think these are my views, Mr. Dhawan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jesse. So now one more quick question to Dr. Rajan. Dr. Rajan, currently the thing is that many of the parents whose children are studying in the college or schools, they have been thinking that the current shift, which has shifted from the physical learning in the school to the online learning, has uh, built a bridge, but that is not built properly because they think there is somewhere a lack of education because the parents think that their students are not able to do the physical activities that they were able to do in the school, and due to which they are thinking that is it good to have a online education or was it good to be physically present in the school or college to attend the classes? So it would be great if you can share your opinion on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to say in terms of good or bad, but I would certainly like to say that earlier also, when you were in school or college, there was something that you would be asked to do on your own. So whether you do an assignment, you go to the library, you do it at your own pace, at your own time, and you submit that. That part still stays, though that has become larger in terms of the quantum of that. Therefore, yes, I do agree that the physical aspect of face to face interaction, peer learning, and engaging and sharing a social chat, those things certainly would have got affected, and they would actually take a toll in terms of our own mental being. Because remember that work, whether it is study or work, has got not only the material aspect of money and there the learning, but it has also got a very major aspect of socialization. And if you are not going to have that kind of socializing, instead of that, you're saying you need to have something called social distancing. Now, as a human being, we are not made for social distancing. We are made for actually socializing. So the regular travel to work, getting ready, meeting your friends, having a cup of coffee, the water cooler, just parking your car and saying hi to someone, those are very, very critical aspects of being a human. And we live in an Anthropocene era, an era where lots of things are changing in the world. This part we had not anticipated that it would happen so much and so fast. Therefore, adaptability with that kind of an environment is perhaps causing this question in the mind, is it good or bad? I personally think it was there before too, in a lesser quantum. It is now more in a bigger way. Therefore, a hybrid, as they keep calling it nowadays, a hybrid model, we could call it a blended learning model, could work best, where you have got some portion where you could actually physically attend a class. And I'm sure that God helps and the science helps and everybody who's in that industry helps. We should be able to get over some kind of a miracle cure to stay away from that dreaded disease. It's not something that will go away very easy, but we could. The more important miracle lies within us. We got to find a way to adapt, be resilient, and make sure that both of these things help us to move forward with. One last thing I would certainly say, looking at what was mentioned by Frederick and others too, is that when you want to cope with this or manage with this, you need to think of this as a triangle which has got three aspects that you need to fulfill every day. One of them is people. You certainly need people. You can't just go away and live in an island on your own. You need to have technology because that's pervaded every aspect of your life. You can't stay away without that. But the one that kind of becomes the most difficult one, and that's what we are not used to, is sharing of information. So shared information, people and technology, these three things you can manage to blend. I think it will become a bit better, more effective and easier to cope with it.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. That was very wonderful. Now, I would hand it over to Mr. Peterson to take it further for this session. Over to you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Dhawan, for facilitating this discussion so well and taking maximum questions. Thank you, dear panel members, Dr. Rajan, Dr. Jesse, Mr. Frederick, for sharing your insights on today's session. Truly an amazing session. To all those who wish to share and learn, you can also access the slides and recordings of our today's sessions on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. I would also want to thank Mr. E.K. Mathur from Lucknow Management Institution. This brings us to the end of our this year's webinars. See you soon in our next new year with many more such webinars. Details for the same will be shared shortly. To all our participants, in case you have any topics that you wish HRAI should cover, request you to kindly share the same in the chat window, or you can write to us on email. The ID has been shared in the chat window. That's it from us today. See you soon. Stay safe. Take care and bye for now.
Merry Christmas. Best
Merry
wishes.
Christmas, sir.
Thank you. All the very best.
All the very best.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all the best to everyone.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. Peterson, for organizing such a wonderful session today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dhawan. Thank you, dear participants, for joining in today. we hereby conclude with our today's webinar. Thank you.